This episode is brought to you by California Cryobank and BetterHelp, and we are super excited to have them on board, helping to make our show a possibility.
Welcome to If These Ovaries Could Talk. I'm Jamie.
I'm Robin.
And we're your hosts.
We sure are.
Love is love. If you don't have to make a family by taking a traditional route. If these ovaries could talk, they would say.
How do I get the sperm through custom?
I am a lesbian.
So gay.
So gay. We need to tell our stories.
It's not your nuclear family anymore. It's not just your mom and dad thing.
We're not ruining these little humans.
Not for the gay reason. Just because we stay.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Oh,
Hi, Robin.
Gee, here we are, Jamie, another week. But we're getting close to the end of this season.
I know. It's still Pride Month.
It is.
And my daughter on the bus this morning was like, why is there still Pride stuff up? I was like, because it's June still.
Well, now it's all June, so it definitely feels like much longer than it used to. It used to be just a week.
I think it should just be all year, every year. I mean, it's the best.
I mean, listen, you don't have to not be proud all year, Jamie. You can be proud and wear your rainbows all year.
Listen, every day is Pride for us. Every day.
But we should tell people, though, Jamie, that we're dark next week for the July 4th holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're dark for the month of August. So we won't be back till after Labor Day.
But you can always go back and listen to past episodes. We have over 100.
Yeah, get caught up. Yo.
Get caught up. That's what my mother says she does. She likes to go back and listen because there's so many she forgets about them.
How is your mother not sick of us yet? I mean,
she will never, ever, ever get sick of us.
I mean, she's probably sick of me, but she's not sick of you.
No,
but that's
I don't think
right.
so. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's her favorite thing. She thinks we should be releasing reruns throughout our dark month.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
I know. We need a break.
Tell
But
your
we'll
mother
see.
not to make more work for us.
That's what I told her. I said, listen, we need no more work right now. But anyway, we've got to get into this news item we want to talk about. Guys,
Yes.
Sesame Street takes a big leap for LGBTQ visibility and introduces gay dads with a daughter. How awesome.
For Pride Month, they dropped this episode where we found a little article about this where they're talking about Family Day. And they have two gay dads, Frank and Dave, and their daughter, Mia. Come on now, Sesame Street.
Come on, Sesame Street. I love Sesame Street. My daughter used to watch it. Like, she was really into it. And I very much enjoy Sesame. I like the music. Like, they put good stuff up. They're little musicals. And my son is not as into Sesame Street.
Oh, he's
So
not?
I miss it. No, I miss it. He's like a Mickey Mouse kid. I don't know.
I'm trying to scroll through the comments to see.
Anybody trolled it?
Yeah, I'm seeing like, oh, and there goes the block on Sesame Street. Let's see what else we got. If we got
Somebody
any
said
other.
that?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? What's wrong with people? There goes
Oh
the
my God.
block.
Oh my God. Here's one. I can't imagine how horrible it would have been to be raised by two men. No woman in the house for a girl to turn to. Sorry, but men and women are not created equal, at least not in the sense that they are identical. I strongly believe that children are entitled to one parent of each sex. Anything outside of that is a tragedy. Can you work with tragedy? Yes, but no child should be set up with a scenario on purpose. Oh God.
Oh my God. Oh my
I mean, listen,
God.
I guess we shouldn't dwell on it. There's always going to be those people, but hopefully they see the episode and they see the results of things like our kids growing up to be wonderful people,
Exactly.
you know? And
Without
hopefully,
trauma. Can you imagine?
Hopefully it changes those people's minds. I mean, how do you see somebody like State Senator Zach Walls,
Right.
from our season 2? How do you see someone who's raised as amazing as he was by two women and then think it's his life's a tragedy?
I mean,
GFY.
He just did an Ironman race. Like,
He's not messing around.
no.
I think about my kids reading things like that, and I'm
No,
like,
I know. That's the scary thing. Like, we are trying to raise children with a lot of love and a lot of compassion. So,
I know.
Stop the mean comments, guys. What's wrong with you?
but
then
people
also,
said that about divorced homes.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Anyway, stop trolling people. Stop. It's not
Go
necessary.
get a hobby, for God's
Go
sake.
get a rainbow flag and be done with it. It's pride, damn it.
All right, Jamie, let's send a special thank you to our newest Patreon member, which was so excited. Jennifer, the embodied life therapist, has joined our community.
Thank
Jennifer.
you, Jennifer, the embodied life therapist. And if you would like to help us make this content for our LGBTQ families, you can also join our Patreon community and help us. You can do just that. You can help us stay away from the trolls by making good, family-friendly content.
In theory, we might get more trolls, but that's all right. That to me, that means we're winning. So and you're
I
gonna
don't
get
want trolls.
Yeah, I know you don't, Jamie. I know. Oh, and at the gestational carrier level, you're going to get video interviews of most of our episodes, and they are dropping a day early. Jamie, what are you doing? Is that slime?
It's slime. My daughter left slime on my desk. I hate slime, but for some reason I can't stop playing with it right now.
All right. Well, just head to patreon.com/ovaries talk and you could join us there.
Yes. Okay. All right. So let's get to this episode. Helen is telling us to roll it along. Sorry, Helen. She's at my house this time, so she's.
I love how you had to tell me because I was about to make imaginary Helen be at my house.
All right. So she's with me right now, and she is literally moving her hand, gesticulating wildly. So let's talk about our guests. Alia and Emily are our guests, but Alia heard our pitch recently saying that we had gotten some feedback from listeners that we hadn't represented all aspects of our LGBTQ community. And of course, we're like, well, let's bring them in. Obviously, we need to address everyone and everybody's life. And so thank you for that feedback. And we made a pitch. We said something. And I'm distracted by my slime.
I know. Put the slime down. So Alia said, that she said to herself, really, not to us. She was like, well, they haven't spoken to anybody who's asexual. And she was right. We had not. And so she reached out and she said that she wanted to share her story about her relationship with her wife, Emily, who identifies as bisexual, and how they're parenting and also how they're gearing up to try for another baby.
Yes.
It is such a great interview.
It really is.
I just want to roll it because I'm so excited.
I think we should roll it because we have rambled enough.
Okay, tell Helen to roll it, Jamie.
I'm going to tell Helen to roll it, but she just went to the bathroom. So, no, I'm just kidding. Helen, roll the tape.
She's like, I'm on a break.
She's on a cigarette break. Roll the tape, Helen. Roll it.
Hi, Emily and Alia.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello.
Welcome.
We are so happy to have you here.
Very excited to be here finally.
We're so excited when we have listeners who we get to interview. It's like one of our favorite things. So we're so glad Alia reached out to us, and we're so glad you did.
Yeah, like it was it was like having the television talk back to me when I started talking to it. It's like, oh, you can talk to me. It's like, okay, here we are. You just wanted to be emailed so quickly.
Sometimes we're quick.
Sometimes we're quick and sometimes we're not. Everyone, please be patient with us.
Yes.
Let's start where we always start with you all, with the elevator pitch.
Yeah, no pressure. Go ahead, Emily.
There is no pressure.
On your mark.
Yeah.
Get set. Go.
All right. I am Emily, and this is Alia. We are the Tong Sanchez's. We met in 2013. We were roommates in Acadia, and we worked at the Jordan Pond House. And it was really wonderful, beautiful summer. We became very close. And I didn't think that she was available because she told me early on that she's asexual. And I thought, okay, we'll be friends. But a few years later, I reached out to her because I had this realization that being asexual doesn't mean that you're aromantic. And I thought we should explore that. And she was interested too. So
I like being very intense friends.
Yeah. So we got together, we got engaged, we bought a house. And last year we started trying to grow our family.
Bam. Well
That's
done.
way over 30 seconds.
Listen.
That doesn't matter
We'll allow
because you really got it in there.
Yeah.
We have never talked to a couple like you, so this is really, really exciting for us. I'm curious, and before we get into the interview, I just want to say I have never spoken with somebody who's asexual.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I say anything that is offensive to you or ask you any questions that are offensive, please tell me. And I'm sure Robin feels the same way.
Absolutely.
Yes, I do.
And
This is uncharted territory for us.
I will go ahead and state for the record, to begin with, much like people who say, I've never talked to someone who's gay. There's a good chance you've talked to someone who's asexual.
Yes. That we know
You're
of.
so right. See, there you go. Yes.
I was just looking through statistics because I didn't want to, obviously, I'm not here to represent an entire community. I am here for visibility. So I was looking at the statistics, and it turns out that, among queer identifying youth, 1 in 10 identifies as asexual currently, which was a surprise to me. Usually it's more like 1% of minority sexualities when it comes to adults identifying themselves.
I was looking it up too, because it's both Jamie and I feel like we really want to speak with care about this because we don't want it to be like a sexual conversation, but it's about your identifying.
That's my
What's the best way
identifying.
to
It
say?
reflects on my relationship. It matters a little bit in the medical community now that I've been working with fertility specialists and things like that. And the way I identify, I've hit some snags with it. It's surprising. But anyway,
Well, but I was going to say, I saw that it was said 1 to 4% of people are asexual. And I didn't know that.
I mean, it doesn't come up in conversation very often.
Well, I guess not.
guess not.
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to say thank you for coming on here and being visible and sharing your story with us.
Yeah. Like I reached back out to you guys just because you were talking so much about like wanting to recognize that you weren't representing like a full queer spectrum and you're very aware of it, but you can't do that without people who want to come and be part of that spectrum. And
Aw,
actually,
I'm
That's
gonna
so sweet. That's so sweet.
the first like annual International Asexual Visibility Day happened on the 6th of April. And like I noticed it, and like, oh man, I've been out of the loop for a while. I didn't know we had a day. And it turns out it was the first one.
this year, and it was this year,
Yeah,
2021.
and it was very close to all of your announcements about how you're trying to do better. And it's like, well, I feel very comfortable in the relationship and the life that I have. And like it's a good moment to be visible.
Well, I liked what you said, Emily, in your elevator pitch when you said asexual doesn't mean aromantic. And can you speak a little more about that? I thought that was such a cool something I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, I think I really valued our friendship in such it's been such a like an anchor in my life to have such a close friend for such a long time and through so many different phases of my life. So I don't know. I started like looking at some other friends who were asexual and what their relationships looked like. And I noticed, oh, they do have romantic relationships. And that's not necessarily something that is like it's something that they can, like in any relationship you can work with. You can just talk about it and set boundaries and figure out what each person needs in order for the relationship to be successful. So I think like in the same way that like gender identity, it does not necessarily equate to your sexuality. Like whether or not a person is interested in romantic relationships doesn't mean like that's a different thing to measure and think about in comparison with like somebody's sexual identity.
Yeah. And like
really
for my part, like I met Emily at a time in my life where like I was trying to figure out what my future looked like. Like I was pretty secure in my identity as far as an asexual person. And like I think like I had the benefit of being just a very confident person all through my awkward adolescence. And I never like felt like I had to find like, yeah, good job, parents, or whatever.
That was a mess.
Yeah. Like it's all different sorts of messes. Like I had a friend in high school turn to me and it's like, you know, Alia, you're like a rock. You've really got this whole thing figured out. And I was like I was that kid in middle school, like went into the bathroom where all of her friends were crying because someone didn't want to dance with them. Like, wow, that's rough, guys. Yeah. So I was at a point in my life where like I had vocabulary for like how I was feeling as far as asexuality. And like I recognized like I was very like deeply attached to a lot of people in my life. Like I cared about my roommates in college. Like I focused on my family a lot. And I had been participating as an adult in summer camps, being a camp counselor for a decade at that point. I did 10 years at Girl Scout camp. Nice. And like I really, really cared about the relationships I made there because they were super intense. Like you send a bunch of adults out in the woods taking care of kids that could run away at any moment they want to. Just have to make sure they don't realize that.
But by the way, like, that's parenting in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're all
don't
set.
let them know.
Don't let them know you have no actual power.
Yeah, no actual power. So that's a stressful, intense situation. Yeah. We're all very dependent on each other. We live, work, and play together. And like that was a place where people felt comfortable like being extremely close to each other. I'm not going to say there were no like relationships there because there certainly were a lot of relationships at Girl Scout camp.
Can imagine.
But nobody really questioned my position in being a very like attached, deep friend. Mm-hmm. And like there was an endpoint. Like I knew everyone was going to leave in 3 months. Like when my college roommate like left because he was in a relationship, like I felt like a grieving process. It's like I lost that person that I came home to, and it's not really something you could talk about. Like I didn't like my relationship didn't fall apart from an outside perspective. My roommate just left.
Right.
And I got the apartment to myself. So why wasn't I happy?
Right.
Yeah. So when I met Emily, it was my second or third season where I was working remotely. And like, if you go to a vacation town, like you look around, you have to realize that most of the population doesn't live there year round. So Mount Desert Island, where we met, in Acadia National Park, like a third of its population stays there through the winter. Everyone else comes in to this vacation town and like mans and restaurants and hotels. than just the national park system. So you have pockets of basically adults at summer camp without kids. That's how I saw it. Like, oh, like I can do this someplace else. Like I went out there, like I was in everybody's business. Like I could have intense friendships where like there was always someone to hang out with. There were people who were like having breakdowns because it's a rough career to be in, like in a restaurant where like there's huge amounts of people coming in and out every day. You're away from your family. It's a lot of international students. Like I felt like I could belong and that I was needed, and like I could have intense relationships with people without having like a romantic or a sexual relationship with people. And adults are mostly looking like when you're examining relationships you're having with other adults, people always seem to expect that there's like a commodity or something as far as like having a sexual or romantic relationship with somebody. And like I want to state very firmly that my relationship with Emily is very romantic. Like, she is my wife. I love her. We hold hands in public and at home. Like we are like open and very visibly queer. And that's I think my romantic relationship is very, very visibly lesbian.
Right.
I wondered about the intersectionality of lesbian and asexual, because those are two different things, yes?
Yeah. Like I don't necessarily identify as a lesbian, but I absolutely identify as a queer person. I always have. Like, I felt very strongly that I was not like, I didn't have anything deeply in common with heterosexual women. Yeah. Aside from the fact that I was a woman and I enjoyed being a woman.
Who does? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Oh, wow. That's like, there's not that incentive there that a heterosexual woman would have. I feel like I have a lot of very deep relationships with men. Like I have friends, like I have male friends, at least two.
At least two, she says.
Yeah. Like I know male guys, but
I know male guys.
Yeah, I know dudes.
We know dudes. We all have dudes.
By the way, I feel the
Yeah.
same way about men. Like I like men. I just don't feel like I understand or connect to them in the way that I do with women.
Yeah. Well, like most of my adult career outside of Girl Scout camp has been with dudes because I was a cook. Like I worked in like that very machismo heavy environment. And like it was like I enjoyed being one of the guys a little bit just because of like it's fun to get in there in their pecking order and just put everyone in their place a little bit.
That's fun. I never get to be one of the guys. They never like let me in that crew. Like I would
That was
love
like my
to.
whole childhood. I was like one of the guys.
I was deeply competent and willing to be the responsible person, and I had a shaved head. So, baldest woman in the room is in charge.
So you
situation.
are totally in charge.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I'm curious. Like I'm thinking of somebody like my mother who listens to this podcast, who's gonna afterwards, which she does with every single episode.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Exactly. She's gonna. Sorry, Mom, I'm calling you out, but she's gonna call me up and be like, "I listened to the most recent episode. I still don't understand what asexual is. Is there as pertains to you alone, Alia? Can you define for us in any way?"
So there's usually there is a definition that most like it's splashed across news headlines is that an asexual person is someone who doesn't feel a sexual attraction. And there is also like a spectrum that is recognized within asexuality as far as like being gray sexual, demisexual. And I don't super understand those either. But like a lot of those are defined by your relationship and like how you specifically feel. And that your asexuality is not invalidated if you're in a sexual relationship, if you had a sexual relationship in the past, like the fact that you masturbate does not make you not asexual. Things like that come up a lot.
Do you guys feel, and this is a question for both of you, that people ask questions that they like about that they should not be asking you, or they have a lot of questions about what asexuality is? Or
like, honestly, I haven't been like it's there's no visible marker in a relationship or in a person of being asexual.
Right. How
and
would you
like
know?
I don't like I like when I used to go to Pride, like when we had the opportunity to do those things.
Oh, remember those days?
Like I'd run around with a little asexual flag and wear my like black, purple, and white color, like that lavender color. And like it's nice to notice each other. Like I noticed one or two other asexual or like people carrying those colors. It's like, hey, there you are. You're real. We exist. Fist bump.
Visibility,
and then
right
awkwardly
there.
walk away from each other. Yeah, there's visibility.
Awkwardly
Like,
walk away.
I haven't met a lot of very, what do you call it? Like not outspoken,
like
not
visible?
antisocial, but yeah, visible. No, just like someone who's like, all right, we're going to have an intense conversation now about the fact that we're both asexual.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because it doesn't mean that like we're going to be in a relationship. Like we don't have that much in common as far as like if you meet another lesbian, you're like, oh, okay, like I'm assuming here. It's like, hey, is she cute? Does she think I'm cute? I'm not sure. Like you meet another asexual person, you're like, hey,
What's up?
That's a nice cup.
I was going this way. Where were you going? Okay, bye.
But
Yeah, it's like cool.
I mean, that's amazing. And that makes total perfect sense. And actually, the way you just laid it out makes perfect sense to me. So thank you for that. Now I want to know, I don't know if Robin, if you're ready for this, but now I want to know your story, the two of you. Like, let's
Yeah.
dig in.
Yeah.
How
did you go
start?
from like meeting at the resort place or the
Mhm.
town to like we're gonna turn this into a thing?
I called her on Valentine's
Yeah,
Day.
you did.
And
Yeah.
I said, hey, I've had this dream for a really long time that we'd like get a house together and have a big porch and a garden, have kids.
Now, did you did you already have a
I
kid at
laid
this
on-
point?
I did. I had
'Cause
a.
we
I
haven't
had
we
a-
actually haven't
We're gonna
talked
have to
about that.
unpack that whole
Yes,
side.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
So I,
Mhm.
yeah, I identify as bisexual. I was in a relationship with a man prior, and I had a 2-year-old at the time. And he is now 6. So yeah, I was like, we'd broken up, and I was kind of thinking about like long term what I wanted, and like I'd had this kind of like pocket dream really since that summer that we would have this family together, and I was like, I don't know, part of me had just said, hey, no, that's ridiculous. She would never want that. But then I thought, okay, how do you know that she wouldn't want that?
Right, right.
So
Because you guys
I
already
just-
had a deep connection at this point.
Yeah, what she hasn't said is that she brought that up in 2013 when we met. Like, so we were assigned roommates. Like, we were the dormitory was set up in like pods, and each pod had 2 rooms. There were 4 people crammed in each room. We were in the queerest pod there could have been.
Nice.
I'm
So
pretty
great.
like there was one straight girl there, and she was only there for a month, and she went to college.
It's like, I'm out of here.
I don't know
Yeah.
if she was straight.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm making assumptions here,
Right,
but
right,
like
right.
our little pod, like
It's like they knew.
yeah. So yeah, we were roommates. We were in that room the longest, the 2 of us. So like I showed up first, I had to into myself for a while. People kept trickling in. I think Emily was the 3rd person. I met her mom first, and her mom likes to remind her of that. And like it's a tourist town. So like your day off, you get 1 day off a week,
Mhm.
hopefully.
Jeez.
Yeah. And like there's stuff to do. Like we got free rides on the whale cruise if there was an empty spot.
Mhm.
Like you got discounts at restaurants and things like that. And there was an entire national park to hike and walk around and enjoy.
Yes. It reminds me of my summer stock days. I did a lot of summer
Yeah.
stock. Very similar.
So like if you're not doing it by yourself, like sometimes you want somebody else to like go and have an experience with. And there was always like Emily, like however our shifts, like I worked night shift sometimes, she worked morning, and there'd be like some
Some days we had
afternoon.
overlap,
Yeah.
and it was great. We went out on all these adventures together, and I think other people just assumed we were dating, and I never told them that we were. And I don't know, people just made assumptions about the 2 of us together because we're sitting at like bars, and she's knitting and I'm having a beer.
Mhm.
Like it was like really, really queer.
This is
and
however the
awesome.
story of my
It
life.
really
Like,
it sounds
any-
really comfortable, by the way.
Yeah, like any friends I had in high school, like my brother, honestly, like people who didn't know us that well, like assumptions were made just because like I'm comfortable in people's spaces, and like I guess I stare at people a lot. I don't know, but like I've had a lot of friends come back and like, hey, how did it go with her? Like I've talked to my mom since, like 'cause I've had the coming out story with her a couple of times, because like it gets more complicated as you add a relationship.
I bet it
Sure.
does.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like I just assumed like that summer that you were sad after college, like you had to break up with your girlfriend, and like you just never told me about her. No, mom, I was having an existential crisis because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life after college.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
You like had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Your mom must ask all kinds of interesting questions.
Yep. Yeah. So, like Emily had told me like that summer, like we were talking about like what it was to be queer and like what it meant for us and how we were moving around in the world. And she had this image of like a dilapidated fixer upper with wraparound porch that we were going to live in, just like we were living now, like cohabitating, like
Mhm.
supporting each other and like being the person we came home to. And at some point there were just kids involved, like maybe we had separate families. Like I worked again, Girl Scout camps. Like I've always enjoyed like spending time with kids, and like, have lots of cousins that are 20 years younger than I am.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So like that was her image. And like I had that in the back of my mind, like, yeah, that would be like super ideal. Like I want to be important in somebody's life. Like I want to raise kids with somebody, and I don't know what that's going to look like. Because I don't know that I would believe anybody that said that that was what they wanted.
Right. That you just,
And-
yeah, right. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not like I don't trust them to respect my boundaries. I've had lots of people in my life that I trust to respect my boundaries. that like Emily was the first person who laid things out for me. And like I had the moment of like trusting her to know what she wanted for herself.
Oh, that's profound.
That
Yeah.
is deep.
Wow. Okay. And so now Emily calls you on Valentine's Day.
And she left a recorded little like voice message embedded in a text.
Yeah, of course she did.
Yeah. Because you get to like work on it
Technology.
yourself.
She was in a
Yeah.
different state. I
Uh-huh.
wanted to give her time to
Right.
think about it and respond and
Yeah.
not have to like live talk me.
And
True,
you were
like,
just
and-
like, let's do this. Like Emily, like you were like, let's do this.
No, but before that, like we had sort of been ramping up. Like I'm not a good long distance person.
Mhm.
Like part of the reason that I enjoyed living in all those intense spaces with people was that there was a built-in friend group. I knew who I was going to associate with. And like, I'm not very good at being the person who has plans or makes the phone call or things like that. But like when Emily reaches out, like she sent me photographs, she sent me postcards. Like I got calls every once in a while when she was having her kid. Like I got a baby announcement and I
Mhm.
sent her like a baby blanket. Like our son still has a couple of toys in his room that I made when I got like for her shower.
Mhm.
And, like I sent him really weird knitted vests and things like that. And she sent me pictures of the kid actually wearing it. Look, we were intensely part of people's lives. And I don't remember what exactly was going on at the time. But like I had known that Emily was having like a rough time. There were a couple like just based off of like the tone of her texts and things like that, that like she needed to be reminded how cool and special she was and that people like she mattered to people. She mattered to me.
Yeah.
So I sent her a picture of the wall in my bedroom at the time. That was just a collage of like old pictures and drawings I had made and things like that over the years, things people had sent me. And there was an entire like half of the wall that was dedicated to stuff that Emily had sent me.
Yeah.
So I had like pictures of us from that summer in Maine and like postcards she had sent me and things like letters she had written and like the picture of her baby announcement and things like that. Like that was all there. So like I stepped back from my wall and I took a picture and I sent it to her. And that was a little bit before Valentine's Day.
Yep.
That sealed the deal right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got the phone call from her and like there have been a few like standout relationships in my life where somebody has reached out and said like, hey, like I really want to date you, like you matter. And like my response has always been like, I'm asexual. And their response in back has been a couple of times I've gotten like, have you had your hormones tested? Like, is everything okay?
Right.
There's a lot of people like an assumption is that if you're asexual, it is like a symptom of something that is a little bit off with you,
Yeah.
Huh.
which isn't news to anyone in the queer community that like somebody's looking for
A reason.
something to fix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like there have been a few people like obviously like I spent time, I invested time in these people, like they mattered to me. And I had always felt like in retrospect, I didn't do enough to tell them that like, hey, like that's not for me. You're not for me. But that doesn't mean that like you're not an adorable badass. And I'm thinking about somebody that I worked with at camp.
Yeah.
Like I regretted all those moments where I didn't return the compliment, I guess.
Mm.
Mhm.
So I spent a couple of hours in my room, sitting on the floor, like in a corner, listening to Emily's message and trying to like think of the best thing that I could respond to her with and tell her that like she was amazing, like she was a very impressive person, like the way that she was living her life. And like, of course, like gold standard of time that I've spent with people was that summer in Maine. And like, as I was thinking of all these things, and it was very important for me to tell her, at some point, like I took a step back again and realized that all those things were very, very true. And there's no way to end that sentence without like just saying, yeah, let's make it work.
Yeah.
Like
that's
I had been getting in my
huge.
own way. Yeah.
I feel like that's the first time you've come to that conclusion here, right?
Mhm.
That's huge.
Yeah. And again, it was like Emily as a whole being that person. Like she's not the person that changed things for me or fixed me or anything like that. Like she is the person that I absolutely trusted, like based off the way she was living her life and the things that she wanted for herself. Like I absolutely trusted that I was one of those things completely as I was.
Mm.
I know that Emily sees me as an asexual person, like as a woman, as all the things that make me up.
Right.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. Look at the
Yeah.
love.
I would just wonder
Oh my
if
God.
you were just ready, like you had figured yourself out in a way and you
Mhm.
had got an understanding of yourself. Like, I think it's wonderful that you're giving Emily all this credit. And Emily, I mean, is delightful. But I think you should
Yes.
also
Delightful.
give
Take
some
anything
credit
from
to
Emily
yourself
Brabant.
too. I would not. I would never. But I think you should also give some credit to yourself too. That sounds like you were doing introspective work on yourself and understanding yourself, and then you saw an opening. And I think it would have been very easy to not go to that opening, to stay in a safe space and say, no, I am asexual and I'm not going to do that. And I
Yeah.
think that's really impressive that you like, because you could get hurt if, like you said earlier, if someone wasn't true to their word, in respect to who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I would honestly, like, I would hope that most people would respect that. But like, that's most relationships. Like, you thought you had this thing together. You absolutely did have that thing together. And like, as you grow as a person, like, a relationship can change, you can change, and it might not mean the same thing to you anymore.
Right.
So like, somebody who went into a relationship with me believing that that was all that they wanted, that they knew how to live their life in a way that, like, being in a relationship with an asexual person is central to it, or even just tertiary, however that fits with their lives. I would hope that you could respect that's going to change, because that's any relationship. Like, when you break up with somebody, it's because something has changed, something's not true anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like some straight couples that they get together, and one of the ones in the couple says they don't want kids, and the other one gets into the relationship anyway, thinking, oh, they'll change,
Yeah, they'll change their
right?
mind, yeah.
So I think of that, and I think that can happen in your instance. People think, oh no, she's gonna, she'll change, she'll come around, and
Right. And some asexuals do. Like, some people, that is important to them.
right,
That's something you care about, and like, sex means different things to everybody.
right, yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah,
Like, sharing that sort of experience, like, that should mean something to you, no matter like where you fall on a spectrum.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think intimacy can look a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And so, like, stepping back and realize, what do you really need from a relationship? Like, I need stability, I need support, I need somebody who's going to listen to me, but also give me space when I need space. And like, she does all of those things. So, and knowing that she's very confident in who she is, and she will tell me what her boundaries are and what her needs are too. Like, I know that we can have these conversations, and those conversations can also evolve. Like, I feel like I can change and grow in this relationship too.
And that's
I
important.
feel like you're just demonstrating some of the strengths of our LGBTQ community, right? We have to soul search really, really hard to figure out exactly who we are inside and what exactly we need in a partner or in life in general, right? So there's a lot of soul searching that goes into being an LGBTQ plus person, because
I feel like we have to invest heavily.
yes,
Like, it's a commitment to like decide that you want something enough to like push against the flow of things.
and face hate and face any kind of bigotry that you know imaginable. But then also, you're just opening my eyes to something that, and I don't know how I'm even going to say this, but like, sexuality being this, I think a lot of times, like, sex gets in the way, and you don't focus on the important things that you're going to need in a relationship, because you focus on the sex first, which you're just demonstrating to me how it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be about the sex first, which for me, it was the sex first.
I mean, that's where a lot of people build their relationship. I feel like, as like, even, adolescence, like, that is where, like, you at least know where to start the conversation.
Right.
You build things on
You're pretty.
attraction.
Exactly.
You build
And then
things
you
on
don't do that
attraction.
other work. So,
And also a PS, like, attraction, like, you've been together 20, 30 years. Like, this is the person you've seen in all kinds of positions, and maybe you're less, like, you're like,
sex,
like,
sex doesn't last forever. That's also
My
true.
brother
Wah, wah.
has a philosophy himself that he likes to like say a lot. He's also very affirming, and like, one of the first people, and not necessarily came out to, but that was very just like, yeah, you're asexual. That meant, like, that's what it is. Anyway, he likes to point out that sex is a very small part of any time that a couple spends.
True that.
really true.
Like,
really
if you're
true.
picking somebody out, like, you're not going to spend the most time having sex with them.
No. And a lot of times that's what relationships are built on, which is
Uh-huh.
really funny when you really sit down and think
Well, and then
about
they
this.
break up when the spark dies.
Exactly.
Okay, Jamie, I want to give our listeners a code that they are going to love. I'm stopping everything for this. Okay, here I go.
Okay.
If you go to cryobank.com and use the code OCT,
For ovaries could talk.
you're going to get a free level 2 donor information subscription access for 90 days. Jamie,
Guys, I know. That's worth $145.
that's a lot.
For real. I know. And it gives you access to extended donor profiles, childhood photos, and adult photos for some of the donors. It gives you access to their medical histories, and you can read personal essays they've written, which I personally love. And I mean, listen, it's a really great value. But you know what I really, really love about California Cryo?
Other than they helped us make our kids, Jamie?
Well, that is special. And those essays are special too. But they partner, guys, with LGBTQ plus organizations like Family Equality, the Center, Only Human, to sponsor family building events around the U.S. It's great. And they also created a special discounted fertility preservation program for the transgender community, which can help give the opportunity to have biological children after transitioning. I love
that's
that.
just amazing. And I think it's also really important to note that they do medical testing, psych screening, background checks.
Yes, of course. And they have over 40 years of experience.
I mean, California Cryobank is not messing around,
Nope,
Jamie.
not.
And if any of you out there are looking for donor sperm, just go to cryobank.com. You're going to open a free account, and then you're going to use the code OCT to activate your free subscription today.
It's so good. That's cryobank.com. cryobank.com. Code OCT. And then go make some babies. Do that.
And then send us pictures and say we did it.
Ovaries talk babies. Send them our way. I mean, not literally. Don't send them to us.
We don't want the babies. Can I ask? I mean, it's a little bit of a right turn, but like Emily's saying, let's be together. We're going to have the wraparound porch in the dilapidated house. But Emily's coming in with a 2-year-old. Like, how are we all feeling about that? I mean, like,
It
you're
was a
like
dilapidated
Insta-family.
house and kids in the yard.
Oh, okay.
So that was all right.
And then a
Yeah.
wraparound porch.
Yeah. So
can you tell I love porches? I focused on the porch. But that's okay.
Yeah, I was into the porch too.
Me
I
too,
really
Emily.
wanted us
High
to
five.
sit on the rockers
Yep.
together.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah. We're like drinking the lemonade. We're looking
Yes!
at our farm.
Or the
all I
wine.
heard was fixer upper.
Okay. All right. So
Yes. Oh yeah. Also, yeah, the baby. And like I definitely Facebook stalked Emily. Like I know what her life looked like with the kid and like who her friends were and things like that. Like her kid's adorable. Like you can't see this podcast, listeners, but her given name is Tong, and like she is a lovely, beautiful half Asian, and her
quarter
kid-
Asian.
Sorry,
Oh, I'm a half Asian.
yeah, her
My
kid
son
is a quarter Asian, which means that he has red hair.
Oh my goodness gracious.
He's so
and
cute.
a cute little round face, and he's Asian ginger.
Yeah.
Oh
Like
my God.
I have always appreciated children and like the relationship you can have. Again, like there's another one of those deep, committed
Yes.
relationships you can have, like with a 2-year-old and like a 30 minutes that you spend time with them.
They open up. I mean, listen, I have a
Yeah.
3-year-old right now.
Yeah. Like like my parents were young when they had me, and my dad and my mom are both like 10 years older than their youngest sibling. And so like my cousins, when they started coming in, were about the age, like I was about the age that my parents were when they had kids. And like that was another like excuse for me to like spend a lot of time around people and understand where I fit in a family and like be able to commit to something without being in a relationship. So I was spending a lot of time with my cousins that were toddlers at the time. Like I was some of their favorite people. So like the idea that, again, Emily trusted me that much to like fit into her life was complicated by a very adorable 2-year-old.
Well, I was like, who would I be okay with parenting this kid with potentially in the future? And like, who would I want to have a family with? Who could I see myself like negotiating all of those conversations with? And who would like play with the kid in a really cool, intense way and like get down on their level and like talk with them without using a baby voice and like, do all of those real like intense things. And I was like, oh, Leo would do that.
Yeah.
I don't do baby voice.
Of course.
I
So,
hate baby
so
voice. No offense to those who use baby voice.
I definitely use it with animals and I don't know how to turn it off.
I do too with animals.
Yeah, she talks to the chickens like that.
Of course you do.
Come here, little baby chicken.
How
Yeah.
else are you going to
So
talk to a chicken?
Right? You don't talk to something they can talk back to you.
Oh, you're a chicken.
Like if the cat judges you or the chicken judges you for making squeaky noises at it, it's not going to call you out on it. It's chicken.
Right.
Like I remember being a toddler, not toddler, sorry, I remember being a young child and not respecting my aunts to talk to me in a baby voice.
Yep. So I was like standard, who will talk to my kid as a person and could support me and also will like respect my boundaries and all those things. And I was like, oh yeah, this is something that I really think could work. And like by that point, I had figured out, okay, I knew I was going to take a new job a few months later. I was like sorting that out. I was creating stability around my life. And
After kind of a big split, right? You know, like
yes, yeah.
You had started this whole rebirth.
So yes, I was like, stability in my eyes was like the most important thing. I needed that for myself and for my son. I needed to figure out how I could like start building a life that I designed for myself that I really wanted. And like, who do I want to come home to at night and like go on adventures with? Like, who am I going to enjoy like watching TV with or reading books with or talking with while we're driving on road trips? Like, I knew I didn't want to be by myself. I knew I wanted to be like partnered with somebody, and marriage really scared me at that point. Still, I was like, I'm not like that level of like commitment, but I was like, I really want to not do this alone. And I want to have a partner who's going to come alongside me and like be excited about going to the grocery store together. Because that's like it feels like a mundane task, but it's like with the right person, it can be something to look forward to. So I knew I wanted to design those things into my life. And I was like, I need to make sure that I need to check whether this is an option and know for sure either way. And then I can move forward. Like after she sent that text with the photo, I was like, that was just, yeah.
That was it.
I talked with my siblings about it a lot. They were probably sick of me. I was like, I think I'm going to call her. I think I'm going to do it. And then I did it. So yeah, she was heading up to Maine at the time, and I live in Indiana
seasonally.
So we decided that she'd come out and visit for a week. We just kind of like visit with each other because we hadn't seen each other in person for probably like 3 years. No, 2 years at that point.
Yeah. Oh, also like after the summer that we were together in Maine, like she came and picked me up from a job that I was working in Colorado, and we road trip together out to Utah where she was going to be working. And then I just flew home from Utah.
Oh, nice. That's a beautiful drive.
Just friends do those kinds of things.
Yeah, just friends do those sort of things that really look forward to.
We go to
them,
Arches. We like
conversations.
Yeah.
Listen to Ani
To my best friend, I'd be like, good luck with that drive.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Help, like it's
just friends.
Set aside time and money of like, yeah, that's definitely what I want to spend like the next 3 days just stuck in a car with somebody. Going in the opposite direction that I need to travel.
Yeah.
And so then that went well, and then you were like, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah. So yeah, on my like transit up into Maine from Florida, like I stopped by for the visit. Like I spent a week in her small apartment across from the Domino's, just like being cold and like bonding with her cat and listening to her work. And
it's also my first week of work in a remote job. So I was like, oh my God, she's going to hear me talking on the phone. And like, I get so self-conscious when people
I went
are
out
listening.
and like, I did the dishes while she was bathing her son. And like, I went out to the grocery store and cooked dinner as often as I could and things like that. And at the end of it, like she came out of like the bathroom one day and I was on my computer and she's like, all right, so do you think you're going to come back? Do you have a plan? And I turned around my computer and it was a job search for jobs in the area. So no, like that I had a plan. Like I didn't want to come and just be up on her couch.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of intense Marco Polo while we were, long distance and like phone calls and things like that. Like I got offered a job to take over the restaurant while I was up there. And like I soft committed to it. And like by the time I was back here and like it was spring was coming up, like I just called up my supervisor and I told them like you wanted me to take over from the chef. Like I had a relationship with that chef for like 5 years at that point. And like it was an opportunity that I wasn't expecting. Like I wasn't trained in that field. It's just something I fell into. It was kind of the capstone of my career and I didn't want it. I couldn't see myself like leaving the house. We just got in a house.
Yeah, we bought a house. I asked her to go on a date to IKEA. And then on the way there, like the day before, I was like, this house came on the market that I really, really like. Maybe we could just go see it on the way to IKEA.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We took like the IKEA shopping trip to the next level.
We were going to the IKEA to get more storage for our shoes.
And then you were buying for a new house.
Yeah, we just got a new closet. We just bought several closets.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, it was like, we're just going to look at it. Like, let's let's get some practice with it. We know we want a house eventually. We know like the sort of thing we want. Like, let's go be in a house and like talk to each other about the parts that we like about it. And so we did. And then it was like, well, I kind of want to like figure out the house. Like I'll figure out like if we can do financing. Like we're not going to get financed for it. I just want to like have the experience.
Just get the information.
Like, let's get the information.
Let's just check it out.
Put it out there. Like, like we got financed for this. Like I don't. Like she didn't have like the down payment saved up. I'm like, well, I really don't need a new car. My car's going to work for 4 or 5 more years.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was kind of like like all these things like previously had built up to that moment. So like I had been looking for houses for a long time. I worked for a realtor for a while, so I like was very aware of like what was a good price for a house like this, and so I felt like it's on the surface seemed like a very rushed decision, but it was like we could recognize this was a good opportunity and we should go for it right now.
Yeah.
And it was cool that we like made this huge financial decision together.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So we had the house. We had the house. We had, like, she had the kid. We had the house. Like, I was having a good relationship with the kid. And
Do you
But then what
consider
happened
yourself a stepmom, or what's the status with the like?
Like technically, yes.
Yes. So
That's how I put you in the school
oh,
registration.
good. Yeah. Like, I have access to all of his school stuff. Like, I get the photos that the teachers are required to take now. Those poor people.
Oh, I know.
Like all the updates and things like that.
So many updates, so many pictures.
It was a careful negotiation for the first 2 years because she was still like negotiating how she was co-parenting with her ex.
Right. And
like,
he's in the
obvious-
same town or he's close by.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are in his hometown.
Okay. Oh.
Like,
He's a
his
town away,
parents are
so we don't
here.
share a
Yeah.
grocery store.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But like our son went to his old elementary school, right? For pre-K.
Wow.
Like if he plays baseball, he's gonna be playing on the same like little league diamonds and things like that.
Wow.
Which is a really amazing thing for Tyler.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
his dad actually just had Tyler try on his old baseball jersey
Aw.
like this weekend, and it's like a little big, but I was like, that's so incredible.
Yeah.
Like you could wear that jersey and play like in the
Still
same
has the same last
space.
name on it. Yeah.
And I didn't have that like same kind of intense connection to a hometown, so I knew I wanted that for Tyler.
Mhm.
And like it's really cool to watch
Super
that
cool.
and make
Yeah.
sure that like he has that incredibly stable foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dad is still very much in Tyler's
Right.
life.
Yes. So the first 2 years, like figuring out like how I fit into like their son's life without making anybody feel insecure.
Mhm.
Like that was a careful dance. And I felt like part of that was making sure that he also had consent in the relationship, but like it mattered to him that I was in his life and like what he wanted from me, like as far as like a name or anything like that.
Tyler.
Like, I felt like, yes.
Yeah.
Like I felt like Tyler, like I was going to wait for him to figure that out. It was like Emily invited me almost right away. It's like, hey, like, what do you want him to call you? Oh, I don't know. Like that's sort of up to him. I don't know. So there was a couple of years of that. And like I was Alia to him and like I was that person in his house. And there was a very sweet moment where like we went to a new park that had opened up next to a place where they'd been living when he was 1 or 2 years old. And like there was a willow tree there that he liked to play inside of. And he went in and he remembered it. He's like, I remember this tree. He wanted to play in the tree. And he came out and he looked at me and he's like, you weren't here. Where were you? Like that was his first moment of like recognizing like you are.
I have a memory of this place,
Yeah.
but you were
weren't
not
in
part
it,
of that
yeah,
memory.
and that surprised him a little bit.
Right. Because you were so obviously
Yeah,
a part of his life.
Ever
now.
present.
Such a big
yeah, I'm
part.
part of his life, and COVID's been awful for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that I don't regret about it is that like I took a day off a week through the summer to like take care of him, like make sure that he had stuff to do during the day. Like we went out while she was working, and like we fit that into our schedule. And like he started calling them like you days. Am I gonna have a you day?
Aww.
And like we really just got really, really comfortable with each other because like he was depending on me. Like honestly, I was depending on him to behave
Yeah.
and like keep each other.
I was depending on
entertained.
both of them to leave me alone.
I need,
Yeah, like
I
we would
need a
leave
you
the
day,
house.
Aaliyah. I need a you
Yeah.
day.
What did he end up
So-
calling you?
Well, I forget when exactly it happened, but like I knew that we needed more kids. Sorry, I knew that we wanted more kids.
we do need. Yeah,
And
we need
again,
more
that was
kids.
a conversation that we
We
had
need more
had
kids.
like that first week that I was staying over at the apartment on my way up to Maine. What does our future look like? She had 5-year plans drawn up and things like that. And like kids were something that we definitely agreed on. Like we both had very intense relationship with our siblings and like felt like Tyler was missing that. And like I wouldn't want to like deny a kid a sibling.
Mhm,
And like
mhm.
if we were going to have siblings for Tyler was going to decide what my name was in the relationship. And like I could be Alia to those kids too. And like I never wanted to deny him something I was going to give to somebody else.
Right.
And that kind of clicked over for me that like I was waiting for him to give me something. But what was really more important was he was waiting for me to give him something.
Mm.
And so like I had been looking at names and things like that. Like I knew that I didn't want to be mama and she was mommy.
Yeah, I've been trying
It's
to
like-
get away from mommy.
Yeah.
Everyone tells me that it will drop off and I'll
It
just turn
does.
into mom
Yeah.
eventually, which is
It
And
will.
like the only other like female feeling, like those like syllables that come out of kids' mouths. Like the only one that I was attached to was ma, because my aunts call my grandma ma or madre.
Mm-hmm.
So like it gets shortened to ma. Like I knew that was going to turn into mama if I asked to be called ma. Also, ma
Yeah.
is weird. Like we're in the Midwest, but we're not that Midwest. So like on the list of names, like in the hundreds of queer websites that I looked at, was ama. And like it had a history of like a word for somebody who wasn't your mother, that was taking care of you and was important in your life.
Oh.
And like I had the conversation just like laying on the couch watching cartoons with him, like, hey, like, you know how you call your grandpa Pop Pop and Pop Pop's your grandpa, and you call your other grandpa Gong Gong? Like you don't say grandpa for either of them, but that's what it means. As he was like, he had already been saying like, you're my mom, but like I don't call you mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have two moms.
Like
You
he's
know I
trying to
have two moms.
define
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
his relationship was, and he was trying to define it for another
Yeah.
kid at the park. Like
Yeah.
she's
Oh,
my
So
person.
I told him like, you can call me Ama.
Mhm.
Like, okay.
And then it just
That was it.
I love kids.
Yep.
I love kids.
Yep.
Come on,
Yeah.
kids.
And there was like a funny story, like during that summer where I was taking him out like regularly for an intense full day of like being a nomad out on playgrounds. He like had a friendship with these two other girls, and they like had spent half an hour just sitting there talking to each other. And at some point someone's like, let's point out our moms. Like, where's your mom? It's like, she's not my mom. It's like, well, like, is she your babysitter? I'm like, no, she's not my babysitter. He stuck his head out of the playground equipment. Like, Alia, tell her who you are. I'm your parent. Like, you can tell her that I'm your parent. Okay, she's my parent.
Aw.
And like we came home later that day, and he'd had a really good day. And you like, you know, like every once in a while, like a kid just has a good day, and all they want to say is like, I love you.
I love
You
that.
can call me like, yeah, like whenever you're on the playground again, like, you know, if somebody wants to know who I am, you can, like, you don't want to tell them I'm your mom. I understand that. Like, I'm your parent. You can tell them I'm your parent. It's like, okay, I love you, parent. And he gave me a
Oh.
that doesn't quite roll off the tongue, right?
You're like, I don't think so.
I'll find you something else.
Very sweet.
Like that's
I
where that
love
word
you,
fit in for
parent.
him. It's like, I love you, parent.
Oh,
that
he
is
really was
really-
trying to find a name for you.
Yeah.
It does sound
so
like
I
that.
realized it wasn't something that like I asked from him. Like that was something that he was waiting for me to give him.
Right.
Mm.
And it definitely felt like that. And he felt like he seemed like he was more comfortable, and he sunk into it like when he had a word.
That's his word for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you have such an intense, close relationship with a parent, it's
Mhm.
important to have a name. Yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
Duh. So when did you guys, are you already in the process to grow the family?
Yeah. So in that plan was getting married. It was important for me to get married just because we had been doing everything so quickly. Like I wanted her family and my family to know that like I was super committed to being a part of their lives before I started adding more kids to it for them.
I just bought the house,
So-
but you know.
Yeah, we just bought the house. We're like, okay, we gotta put on the brakes. Like wedding. Like I'll get on your insurance.
Yeah.
We'll have a plan. We'll
Mhm.
like talk to clinics, things like that. Babies.
Mhm.
Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals, Robin? That question just gets me every
But
time. Like,
Funny that you should say that. Yes, Jamie, and I'm stressed out, as is the rest of the world.
yes, true.
But that's why we all need BetterHelp.
True.
BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you and me and the rest of the world with their own licensed professional therapist. And you can start chatting with somebody in under 48 hours.
Yeah, BetterHelp really is great. It is
Mm-hmm.
not a crisis line. It is not self-help, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It is professional counseling that is done securely online. You can log into your account at any time,
Mm-hmm.
and you can send a message to your counselor at any time.
Mhm.
Plus, you can also schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you never, ever, ever have to sit in an uncomfortable or germy waiting room again, as you have to with traditional
That is
therapy.
true, Jamie. That is all true. But I also like to highlight that they have a broad range of expertise that's available. And that expertise might not be available to you locally in many areas. And so and it's also available worldwide, Jamie.
I know. You know what else is great
What?
about BetterHelp? They are committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches. So they make it easy and free to change counselors if you need to, which is wonderful. It's more affordable than traditional counseling, and financial aid is available.
Jamie, BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. And if you visit their website, you can read all their testimonials, which I love
Do
too.
that. Yeah. So visit betterhelp.com/OCT. That's Better, H-E-L-P, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional.
I mean, Jamie, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. That's incredible.
It really is. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and if these Overs Could Talk listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/OCT.
What do you got to lose, Jamie?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Around February, we were already talking to clinics and like getting an idea of like what
February 2020.
2020.
Jeez. Okay,
Jeez.
great timing. Here we
And
go.
in connection with that, we were looking at wedding venues and had planned a place to picked out, and we were about to put down a deposit for the catering.
Ugh.
Hey, like this COVID thing seems like it's going to be bad. Like, do you guys have a plan if things have to shut down? It's like, oh no, like we're just going to try to get things done now.
I bet
But
you were.
Luckily, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we had the one appointment with the fertility clinic, and like we had the rundown of like what our options were. And we had a second one, like a different we
Consultation.
had another consultation at a different fertility center
Mhm.
lined up that we just never went to, because then it was March 2020 and we stayed in our houses.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So it was put on halt for a little bit.
It's put on halt. We were having one of those intense road trips in May.
Yeah, in May.
Yeah. So like we put on halt. We still talked about like what it meant and like what we were imagining for ourselves. And like I knew that known donor, just like sample in a jar, pass it to the guy down the neighborhood thing was a thing, because my sister-in-law's older sister is married to a woman, and she and her wife had conceived their kids that way.
With a
And
known
like
donor.
again, like I was at Girl Scout camp for a long time, and I played rugby in college. Like all of my friends were having kids. I knew they were having kids, and there were other options aside from a fertility clinic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we were returning a dog that we'd started dog sitting in November of 2019. We were watching it for an airman. Like he was deployed, and we knew we were kind of had this dog indefinitely until he could come back. And again, COVID, so he didn't know when he was coming back.
Oh.
So he came back in May, and like we're on our way there with the dog. Like, hey, ideally, wouldn't it be great if somebody like him was our donor? Like it's kind of fits the picture. Like that's all perfect.
Yeah.
So like on the way, like, we had passed a billboard advertising banking sperm for service members. Like there was a good deal then to bank sperm for service members. So like on our way to return
Memorial
this
Day
dog,
deals. Yes.
Memorial Day deals. Like there was a Memorial Day special for like banking
Veterans
sperm if you're
Day.
yeah.
Bank
Yeah.
your sperm.
Bank that
That's
sperm.
weird.
And like I was looking at, like I'm on my phone, she's driving. Oh, this company lets you mail in the sperm. Like they have a way of keeping sperm viable in the mail. Wouldn't it be cool if there's a way to do that with just sending it to another house?
Even if it's in the mail,
Yeah.
like
Oh.
overnighted.
So
Okay.
like we went ahead, we gave the guy back his dog.
Yeah.
We didn't tell him anything about
You
this.
didn't ask him for a
because that's not
sperm.
the conversation that needs to happen. Like, hey, here's your dog. You know what we'd really love in return?
For
That's
6
not the
months,
thing.
put some sperm in an envelope
Yeah.
and mail it to us.
Oh.
No, like we talked about it on the way back, like make sure it was something we really, really wanted. Like, how would he feel if we approached him about it? Like we constructed a very intense email. It's just like try to balance it out perfectly. And like he responded, yes, like, yeah, like I absolutely want to help you with that. Like we had a couple of FaceTime calls to make sure that we were absolutely on the same page. And then I started asking for him to ship his sperm in the mail. And like, I wanted to be able to do something.
But yeah, because it's COVID. It's
Right.
couldn't
But, like,
necessarily drive there
yeah,
or fly
I was
there on a
tracking-
weekend when it
Yeah.
was like worked out for her cycle. Like
I'd
we
been
couldn't-
tracking my cycles.
So,
like I
and
knew.
Aaliyah, you're carrying.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I'm carrying. I'm about to be 35. And it was always like part of the 5-year plan was that like I really wanted the chance to do it. Like I wanted a chance, like I'm interested in being pregnant. I'm interested in like sharing that experience with Emily
Yeah.
and
yeah.
like with my mom and my grandma. Like those are all people that did these things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like
I get that.
I don't necessarily want to be like genetically attached. Like that's not a huge deal for me.
And so he started shipping it to you?
Yes. Like he started shipping it to me. Like I started like just scouring the internet for success stories. Like they're out there, but they're just like little comments and sections.
How do you
Uh,
ship it? What?
Like dry ice?
So there's there's dry ice. There's also a thing called test yolk buffer, which is a medium that is it's formulated for sperm and shipping sperm.
Okay.
It's not exactly the same thing that companies use when you're shipping sperm to them for banking or for like semen analysis and things like that, but they exist and they've been used in lesbian communities for like the past 15 years.
We've never heard of this.
We've
Well, you've
never
heard about
heard
it.
of
It came up a long time ago on the podcast, somebody was using baby dust.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
It's the
Okay.
same kind of company. So test yolk buffer is probably what they were using.
Okay. Look at you knowing our archival stuff.
Yeah.
Like, well, you brought it up. Like, we were already trying.
Yeah.
Like, I had found a couple of places where like this was like I was convinced this was a thing. And when looking on the internet, it turns out it was a thing. And like every once in a while, there's little anecdotal evidence that somebody had kids this way.
Wow.
There's not a lot of it.
It's very slim.
Very slim. Like, honestly, you have to be doing it just right. Like, there's so much margin of error as far as like what he's doing, what the male carrier is doing, what you're doing.
Right.
So long story short, nothing came. Like, well, I don't want to say nothing came of it. It was like that first time that I inseminated with the male sperm.
At home.
Like, it was at home.
Yeah.
Yes, at home. Like, I tracked my cycle. I knew I was ovulating. Like, I did the basal body temperature. I used a speculum to check on things. Like, it was there. Like, I felt good about it. I inseminated, and like, I'm assuming that you guys remember the first time that you inseminated. You're like, I'm pregnant.
Oh, for sure.
I'm pregnant now,
So
and it's
For sure.
magical.
I'm like, they put it right there. Of course it's
Actually,
happening.
Robin was pregnant.
I was, but I had a miscarriage. But sorry.
yeah, like,
But I did
and
feel that way
that's
before
what
I knew.
happens, right?
Yeah.
So like, I was convinced that I was pregnant. Like, anytime I was hungry, I felt like I had to act on it, or else I would feel guilty about it.
Because the baby needs it.
Yeah.
So yeah, baby needs it. Like, I need to go eat a piece of toast, hummus, and sauerkraut that I made myself on it because the baby needs it.
Obviously.
And there was like very cute like moments like when we're in bed where like I know that she's thinking about it and I'm thinking about it, and I can like take her hand, like lay it over my stomach.
Maybe there's a baby
Like,
in there.
Yeah.
And I was like 5 days late on my period that month.
Oh,
Like, we were talking about like
dang.
how intense it was and like how amazing it was that like we gotten everything right. She's like, you did so much research, you did everything right.
Oh.
yeah. That makes it
So-
even harder.
Yeah, it's hard, but if nothing else came out of it, like I know the level that I want to pursue that with Emily, because like those 5 days were super.
It was
super
so
sweet.
cool. We were like pregnant for 5 days right then. And
Yeah,
Oh.
like
Yeah.
being at work and being like, I have a secret.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. Remember
yes.
those days?
Yeah.
How many times did you try the same way?
We did that every month, aside from 2 months, because he was in the country now, and like about like 3 or 4 months into lockdown, like we had conversations with him about being comfortable. Like, we did the road trip 12 hours out there.
that was a crazy
Yeah,
weekend.
that was a crazy weekend. I know
We're
I'm
like,
gonna be
we're going to
ovulating.
get fresh sperm this
I'm
time.
ovulating on a Saturday.
We're gonna
Like,
go.
we're gonna do everything right. Like, the weekend's here. It's great. Like, we're just gonna pack up everything when we get off of work. 'Cause Tyler's with his dad.
Mhm.
We're just gonna get in the car. Like, we were waiting to check in with him. Like, we were 5 hours on the road. We knew he was still at work.
Oh my God.
Like, it's okay. Like, we'll ask him if it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
And if we have to, we'll turn around. Like, we won't tell him that we're on the road.
Oh, you hadn't
Well,
told.
like, we don't-
oh.
Want to lose this
Oh my
time.
God.
Like, we want those 5 hours to get ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about
So we
that.
drove the 5 hours. We waited to like get a response from him about whether or not it was okay or if we should turn around, which we were totally like banking on. Like, we'll just turn around. We won't tell him. It's not a big deal.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So you took the road trip. He said yes.
He said yes. We stayed there for 2 days. I think it was 2 nights.
Yeah. And then tried,
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
2 times, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he and his wife went out. Like, they already had like an evening plan. Like, you guys can come, but we're not going to be here. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
That's amazing. You just left it.
Leave
You
the
go
sample
in.
on the counter, please.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh my
you.
God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
If nothing else, it was really good because we had that opportunity to have face-to-face
Yeah.
conversations instead of over Zoom or
Mhm.
email or text, where we could like talk with
Yeah, we
each
sat
other
around a
about
dinner
what we
table
were
and,
what
like,
we were
talked.
hoping for.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important thing to do. And you're working with a directed donor, like you
Mhm.
need to make sure that they're on the same page. Like,
Yeah.
if they have expectations about like communicating with the child, if there is a child,
Mhm.
or like anything like that, like that we could kind of start building that trust and that safe space for us to
Yeah.
have a conversation.
like, this was a friend. Like, I wanted to make sure that like our relationship with him was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
important.
kid's not here yet. I still care about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, making sure that he had support and was in a good place. And like, we all got to laugh about the idea that like some people decide to call their donors their special uncle, and how very awkward that would
That
be.
is a little awkward.
Yeah.
I
That was a
love,
nice
I love
icebreaker.
how like positive you all are. I mean, it's like you weren't having success in the pregnancy, but it's like you've turned it into life lessons.
Yeah, we were still moving forward, and like there wasn't anything else that I felt like I could do at the time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because like the clinics we were interested weren't taking
Right.
new patients. Like, we couldn't get him out there to donate to the clinic. And like get that like
yeah,
we
like
have to
none of
wait
it was
6
it wasn't
months.
safe. We have all these
Yeah.
restrictions. So like what can we do?
You're like,
What
this is
do
what
we
we
have
can do.
control over?
Right,
right,
yeah.
right,
Mhm.
right.
So he's currently deployed again. He won't be back until August.
Ah.
But we've done work in that time.
Yeah.
We have
like we've been
Mhm.
going back into clinics again. We spoke with our financial planner about like what it will look like if we have to like spend money on
Right.
IVF.
Uh-huh.
So an issue with IVF is that so our insurance will cover IUI, but we have to wait for 6 months for his sample to be quarantined.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
But they can use sperm right away for IVF.
without quarantining it.
That's crazy.
Oh.
Oh, because they test
Right?
it?
Why
What
is
the
that
point?
a thing? It's just like a
The
legal
laws were
loophole.
written at different times.
Ugh,
So like the laws
so
for
annoying.
IUI
So
existed
typical.
before IVF was common.
It's so ridiculous.
And also like if I was in a relationship with him, apparently, like if I could admit to having sex with this man, whether or not we were married, whether or not he was my boyfriend,
It wouldn't be an
I could
issue.
just go in.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an
That's
issue.
ridiculous.
Also, like the 6 months that I've been trying, like I documented things, like I had my charts printed out. I'm like, all right, this is how long I've been trying. I'm really close
Like
to like
I have been trying. When they ask
Yeah.
that question,
Yeah.
have you been trying?
You
Like,
actually have
yes.
it doesn't count unless a dude or a doctor was putting semen inside of me and I did not use my hands.
That is problematic.
A little
bit. That makes me so mad.
Super problematic. That is
Yeah.
such a problem.
Like every time I hear it, it makes me mad. It's like not new
yeah.
information,
Like,
and I'm
it's
just
still
as
there.
mad. Yeah.
Yep. It's not new
God.
information. It's there. Like I was hoping like there was some way that I could word it and where like a clinic would be understanding of like, yep,
You're
that's your
literally
situation.
there
Like,
with like charts.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're like, look at all my scientific research
Like,
that I
yeah,
have
this
been
is what,
doing.
like, they brought like I was speaking with the financial person at the time, like trying to figure out like what it would cost, like for his donations to be covered and things like that. They're looking at my plan. Like fertility clinics hire extra people who understand like how to go through your insurance information. Like there's a whole separate specialty. Like this woman knew her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started talking about like what it would mean that my directed donor, like were you in a relationship with him? Did you have sex? Like was there a syringe involved? They brought in a second person to sit in the room for that. Like
Ridiculous.
and there's also a separate thing of like as far as like being an asexual person, like I'm not uncomfortable in a medical situation. Like I don't mind. Like I've gotten very geeky about the whole fertility process. And like one of the few places I felt like it was cool to be visible and out was like in a doctor's office.
You would think.
So like for
right?
the past 8 years, like I've been checking boxes and filling in answers like asexual. That's what it means for me. And like having that conversation with your gynecologist. Honestly, it was nicer to have a word for it because like when I was a teenager at the gynecologist's office, they asked me what kind of birth control I was on. Anytime I said I don't have sex, like they looked at me like, oh, honey.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Or they were lying.
Yeah. So when it came to fertility clinics, like explaining that I was asexual and my wife was bisexual, like the look that we got was just like alarm, concern, and like having the conversation about reciprocal IVF, just because like it was our first appointment. Like, what's the whole bucket? Like, tell me everything. Like she got hung up on the idea that like if I was asexual, she would also have to quarantine my wife's egg donation.
Because we hadn't
Somehow.
had sex.
What?
And
God.
like
What
if
the-
you haven't exchanged fluids, then
yeah.
there's a problem. And it's like
That
And
makes
like honestly,
no
like I
sense.
immediately said, like, it's okay. Like we share a bed, I see her naked, and she's like, okay. Like she nodded.
that's
and she's
enough.
yeah,
and
that's
why do
enough.
you even have to have that question?
Yeah.
Like, why is that something to
none of your
ask
business.
people?
None of your
Mhm.
business. And
Yep.
Mhm.
what? Oh
That
my
is
God.
so
So all the
ridiculous.
clinics moving forward, like I've just put down lesbian.
yeah.
Like, and
Because you want to
like,
make your life easier, right?
I want to make my life easier that way. Also, like I'm visibly a lesbian. Like that is a way of affirming my relationship
Right.
with my wife.
Right.
Like lesbian doesn't just talk about sex. Like I am romantically in love and committed to this woman. I'm a lesbian.
Yeah.
Like every time you say something like that, Emily giddily laughs.
I know.
It's the cutest
so much love. You
thing.
guys are so much more intimate than my wife and I.
I
And I'll tell
know,
you
we
what, a
so-
lot of lesbians don't have sex. So
Yeah. So,
you
a lot
fit
of
right
married
in.
couples don't have sex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So did you decide to go IUI or IVF?
So our plan is that I'm going to do one cycle of IVF once we have sperm banked again.
Mhm.
And that like we have a way to cover it. We don't have to go into debt for it. We're very, very lucky for that. But once we do, like her insurance is actually pretty great. Like it will cover IUI.
Mhm.
And I only have to go through 3. Like if I have 3 failed IUIs, my IVF is then covered.
Great.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that is.
But
That's
like
great insurance.
it's pretty great insurance. It's through Boston, Blue Cross Blue Shield,
Right.
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Yeah.
Anthem, Blue Cross Blue
Yep.
Shield
We're
for
in Indiana.
Massachusetts.
All of the endocrinologists I've talked to have been like, oh my God, it's great that you have Massachusetts coverage because
Yeah,
Indiana
it's
is awful
great.
for
Yeah.
fertility coverage. Yep.
That is really great. Okay.
So it's all there, it's covered. And if there had been any chance of getting his sperm bank 6 months ago, we could be trying that now.
Now you just have to wait until he's back
Yeah.
and
So the plan is once he's back, like we're going to try IVF. And if that's not working, then we've got 4 or 5, however many months it is, of trying at home again until we have access to his sperm in a clinic situation.
Okay. All right. Well, our fingers are crossed.
Yes. And I love the never say die attitude. Like, I love that you guys, and your positivity is so, it's like catchy.
Yep. Also, we have a really great 6-year-old at home. Like he's
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I don't
had a
even
4-year-old going into the pandemic, and now we have a 6-year-old.
I don't even describe my 7-year-old as really great. So you guys are like just like a step above the rest.
You're already winning. You're already winning.
You're just winning.
Well, you two are amazing. We are so glad you reached out.
Yes.
This has been such a wonderful conversation.
It really has.
It is nice to talk to people.
Right?
It's
so
nice to
much
talk
fun,
about this
yeah.
specifically. It's
Yeah.
like I feel like I sometimes have one-off conversations with friends about it, but it's hard to have.
It's good to know you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Oh my
exactly.
God,
We
all day
definitely
long.
do. And visibility matters. And so
Yeah,
we are just
absolutely.
so glad you reached out and we're able and willing to tell your story. So thank you so much. I think that your story is going to help a lot of people.
I think so too.
Oh, speaking of, something that helped me in college was the Asexual Visibility and Education Network,
Okay.
which is at asexuality.org. It's a forum that has it's one of the few places where asexual people actually hang out together. And I spent a lot of time on those threads when I was in college, my senior year.
Okay.
That's great.
And it still exists. It's still out there. I checked in on it. And they also promote current media that features asexuality people or people in asexuality spectrum.
That's great. That's
Yep,
great.
so anyone else out there that needs to see a list of speculating on which fictional characters are asexual, it's out there. And it's a good way to decide what you're going to watch on Netflix.
That's fun.
Amazing.
That is fun. I got to check that out.
I know. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh, man. I love talking to them.
I know. I'm so thankful and appreciative that Alia reached out to us. I mean,
Mhm.
I am always so amazed at how our community is willing to share their stories and such intimate details in order, for others to learn and to understand us. Like, it's such a gift.
Yes. And also for others who might slightly have a story similar to theirs to hear their story.
Yeah.
Because it helps. It helps so much
It
to
is
hear our
so,
story.
it's so important to hear yourself mirrored, if it just to know you're not alone.
Representation.
That it's just huge.
Representation matters.
It sure does.
And at the end of the day, what they did show was how loving, communicative, compassionate, and intentional they are. Which
damn it, they
it's
did, Jamie.
one of our themes. It's just these themes keep running through.
sure do.
Intentionality. We are so intentional. Our families rock.
They really do. They're
They
in
really
the words
do.
of Jamie, they are beautiful. Hashtag beautiful.
Hashtag beautiful.
beautiful.
I should copyright that. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
go ahead, Jamie. Give that a whirl.
Yeah.
But I was the one who put the hashtag in front of it. Okay. Go get our book, If These Ovaries Could Talk, the things we've learned about making an LGBTQ family. All major retailers have it. And if you want to buy it locally, you can check IndieBound and they'll tell you where to get it.
You can also get the audio book if you want us to read to you at night and during your commutes and whenever you read a book. That's available on Amazon and iTunes. And if you do get it, please don't be afraid to review it on Amazon or Goodreads because those reviews help us get it out to more and more people. Thank you very much.
Really, really do.
They really do.
And you guys, even though, we said we're going to be dark soon on July 5th and then for the month of August, we do want to keep in touch with you over that time. We'll be on the social media, Ovaries Talk on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can catch up on our live streams if you haven't on If These Ovaries Could Talk on YouTube. And the live stream will be dark too for the month of August and the week of July 4th. But, there's a lot of old episodes there that are pretty fabulous.
Yes, pretty fabulous if we don't say so ourselves. You can also support the podcast and join our community on patreon.com/ovaries talk. And don't forget, you're going to get bonus content there, like the episodes dropped a day early, video episodes, all kind of cool stuff. patreon.com, ovaries talk. Just wanted to spell it out for y'all.
Thank you to all our sponsors, California Cryobank and BetterHelp. And a huge thank you to all you people who are already in our Patreon community. You guys are literally helping us make this show, and we are so appreciative.
Thank you.
And that, Jamie, feels like enough for today.
It is really it's been amazing. It's been real. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. You go out there and you conquer this day. You conquer it.
Okay. I'm going to have Helen sub in on my eggs, ovaries out. All right, you start, Jamie.
No, eggs.
Ovaries.
What is that?
Out.
That's not even. You should keep changing her voice. I know. What the heck was that?
If these ovaries could talk, they would say,
Eggs, ovaries out.